Hello, everybody. My name's Joel Fulderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. We get together, we have a discussion, we come up with some thoughts, some ideas, and sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. And today's topic, we actually skipped a week of our usual due to a death in our family. I actually had a good friend today who lost one of their pets. And that seemed like a good topic to discuss right now, which was about the loss of pets, and in particular, the loss of pets right now. There's a lot of thoughts about that and about the fact that with everything that's going on, mourning and grief and things to that effect are very difficult, and some of that can be affected with their pets as well. I thought, as people who have had experience with both their own pets and with their clients' pets and dealing with grief and loss, that might be an interesting topic of discussion today. Steve, I know you lost a pet fairly recently. Do you want to start us out today?
Well, I lost two in the past year, and they're always devastating. I got pictures all over the place, and I often pass, and have a word, right? Or I'll find hair for the rest of my own life, because shepherds, there'll always be hair. But when I find it now, it used to be a drag, sweep, mop, vacuum, sweep, mop, vacuum. Now, if I find some hair, it's like I want to throw a party. It's it's a beautiful thing. It's my old friend is still here in some ways. It's rough. It's rough. I find it hard personally. They're part of my soul, so it is what it is. I got a lot of them in here. Many dogs over many years, and I remember them all very well, and they all have that special place. With my clients, I find that, and everybody's different about this. You lose one. I've yet to have taken in another dog. Could take me some time. I once lost a dog to trauma. Got hit by a vehicle. I was 4 years without a dog after that loss. I mean, I went to work every day. I got my fix, but I couldn't really. And I had imported that dog, and then I called the person I got the dog from, the broker in Europe, and I said, listen, I'm going to need another dog at some point. And she said, you can call me back when you're not going to compare the new one to the last one. Don't call me until then. And it was a powerful thing to say, right? I mean, and professionally, we know this, right? Because my last dog didn't do that. We hear that all the time. How come Fluffy never did that? Oh, Fluffy was housebroken from the first day. Fluffy wasn't mouthy. Fluffy never chewed a thing. You hear all this stuff, and you say to them, it's like, well, it's a little like childbirth. When you have a kid, every woman says after that painful experience, I won't be doing that anytime soon. And then 2 years later, they're popping out another one. Remember the pain? What pain? It didn't hurt. It was a natural, beautiful thing. And I'm like, I'm going to go with all that. But I remember you specifically saying, it's like, oh, no, can't do that again. And I find this similar to the pets. Where people he didn't do that, or how come? And so that I find that a kind of a deal. It's not everybody feels quite the same or gets past it in the same way, and I think everybody's got to take it however it is for them. If you rush into getting another one, it could be a mistake. On the other hand, there are people who are like, I can't be in the house without a dog, right? I need to have a dog in the house, and and
in particular with what's going on right now, maybe people are rushing to get another dog, and they're not dealing with that grief process.
It depends, I guess, on each, right? Because some people, and really, I mean, I've known veterinarians who would lose a dog and pretty fast. they jump right on another one. Doesn't mean that they didn't love the dog they lost. I mean, I get that. But they open it up like a little bit earlier than I could. But I guess it's a real personal thing. It's kind of deep, you know?
Yeah. And Bonnie, do you think that there are dogs that you grieve more than others?
I do.
Mhm.
I do. Um, I know for me as a dog trainer, the dog that was the one that, you know, we all say this is the dog that led me to being a trainer is for me was the deepest pain and the one, but I don't know. I'm just kind of analyzing it. It was a really deep pain for me because she gave me a profession and a joy and led me into a career that midlife that I never thought I would get into. But on top of that, she was well adjusted, liked people, dogs, was a really, really even tempered, lovely dog. And everybody liked her. And she loved to train with me. So, and we were bonded, which at the time I didn't even know. I thought something was wrong with that. I remember going to a John Rogerson workshop up at Sue Sternberg's place, and Rogerson's wife said, "Oh yeah, she's bonded to you." And I said, "Oh, what is there something wrong with that? What's wrong? What does it mean?" And you know, so that grief was just, oh my God. But so much was wrapped up into it for me emotionally as well at that time in my life. So, but it's been this September will be 2 years from our last dog, and I haven't been able to get another one yet. So, and haven't been able to look at her, you know, the cremation box or even look at her crate, and all of that's in a closet. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. Hurts. So, but I feel like with the last one, it's, you know, it's not going to take me as long, and that I am ready for one soon. And I know my clients have react differently. Like some have been very open with talking to me about emailing about their dogs and sharing things with me, and others, once I get an email from them that their dog's passed and I answer back, it's like I don't hear from them. I can't rouse them. I can't, you know, even if I email them, say, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And I think it's the way people deal with grief, you know, that it's really hard for them to talk about the dog that they lost after just telling you my dog died, you know. So and as far as with the virus situation and people being in, you know, I think what Joel was alluding to, I think, you know, everything is stressful and highlighted and kind of extreme, not kind of extreme for all of us now. So to have a loss on top of what we're going through must be, you know, really, really painful and devastating to most people.
But I was alluding to that, but part of what I also was alluding to was I had read something fairly recently where they said that people are having difficulty, in particular with grieving for animals, with all the death of people that it's going on, and they feel like that they don't have a right, or that they shouldn't be grieving for the animal. And Helen, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, but specifically about that, I guess I could see where people might feel guilty grieving over an animal when there's so much death around. But the animal is a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
This is your pet. And yes, there's a lot of death around. I mean, you know, what are we up to, 90,000 people? And the thought is, you know, horrific, but the feeling's not there. You know, of these 90,000 people, I knew 2. You know, maybe 3. Okay, 3. And even those people, they weren't very, very close. So I think, I don't know, maybe some people feel the death of other people, even people they don't know, more closely. But, you know, an animal, that's a part of your life. You know, you grieve them much like you grieve a human, you know?
It's more personal.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's still a loss. It's, you know, it's still a loss, and it's a loss of someone. I'm going to call them someone that you had a you know, an emotional bond to. You know, so I think it's got to be difficult if people lose a pet during this time, particularly if they've lost people too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But I don't, you know, I mean, personally, I think the best way to handle it is right away go get another puppy. Not that you forget about the one you lost, but
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I'm more forward thinking. When having lost dogs over the years, now when I get a dog, it's like I go into it knowing I'm going to see an end here, which is, you know, I try not to think about it too much, but I know that's going to happen. And as when I do lose a dog, I don't keep mementos out. I don't want to see pictures. I mean, I'll have a picture, but that's it. I don't want to have a lot of mementos. I don't want to be cleaning up the hair. I really don't. Because I want to move forward. And it doesn't mean I didn't love that dog. And it doesn't mean they don't have a place in my heart. But so I would like to get, you know, a puppy that keeps me focused and keeps me occupied. And I don't dwell on, you know, what I've lost. Now I'm focusing on what I've gained, a new puppy. Also, I'm of the school of thought that if you have multiple dogs, it kind of eases, you know, if you lose one, I mean, unless you lose them all at the same time, that would be horrific. I think having multiple dogs helps you deal with losing one. And lastly, I hate to say it, but I'd rather be in control of the situation. Having lost dogs under not so nice circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
My last one, which we lost back last May, she had a heart condition, and we knew it was coming. And when from the time she was diagnosed to the time we lost her, it was 3 years. So she was on meds that maintained her for a few years. But when it started getting bad, before it got really bad, we decided, no, we're not going to put her through that. You know, the meds weren't working as well. We couldn't, you know, we're increasing the doses, and it was still, you know, she was having trouble breathing. She was coughing a lot. And we took control of the situation. We said, we're going to have a nice last couple of days. We're going to feed her all the junk in the world she wants to eat. We're going to do everything she loves as much as we can. And then we're going to have a nice peace. So, going forward, when I see my dogs deteriorating, I'm not going to wait until it's horrific. I'm not. I'm going to, you know, and I think I'll know the time. I felt like I knew with this past one. It's a hard decision to make.
Sure.
That's how I hope it would go.
Yeah.
Give them a great last couple of days.
Yeah. Jeff, I know that it's probably not the same, but you're having adopted the puppies that you have had, and then you giving the one up for foster, and now you have another one going out. With everything that's going on with people surrendering dogs, and some people surrendering dogs who don't really want to surrender dogs because of financial things, and is there some similarities to that, to losing an animal? Are you losing an animal in some way because of that?
I don't follow you.
Well, is
I don't give up dogs, so. You mean dogs that leave here after training?
yeah, I guess.
I mean, some I can't wait to leave. Some I'm sad when they go.
Mhm.
You know? I mean, it's a lot. It's different than my own pets. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, there's some, you know, one went home. We had 2 meet and greets over the weekend, and she took him home Sunday morning. And I made sure that I cried on Saturday when we met the first time, because the next day I knew he was going home, and I have to make sure that my emotions are completely in check, because I don't want to add anxiety to a situation where the
Okay.
dog has been with me for a couple of months. You know, my crap don't belong on the dog's crap. That's my philosophy. So
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
make sure I separate and dissociate him leaving with any kind of emotion. But yeah, I feel sad sometimes, and sometimes I don't. But they're not my dogs, and it's not really grief. They're not hopping in a car to go get killed. So really can't compare the two.
Okay.
You know, grief is, I don't know anyone who would feel guilty over grieving the loss of their pet. If someone felt guilty because they're grieving the loss of their pet, I have a hard time comprehending that. Maybe because I get so attached. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe because I take the loss of my pets so hard and so deeply. You know, and some I don't. I mean, you know, we're down in North Carolina now, what, 6 years, and we've lost 2 dogs, a parrot, and 2 cats. You know, and my wife and I grieved differently for each of those animals.
Sure.
Because our relationships with them were different as well. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And like everyone said, I mean, grief is so individual. I mean, and you know, everyone knows when you're a dog trainer, sometimes you turn into a grief counselor, right? And you know, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And you know, you talk about the stages of grief, and while there may be some truth to the stages of grief, it's not linear.
No.
You know, it's peaks and valleys, it's back and forth. It's, you know, I personally think, you know, we lost pets that have passed away on their own due to old age. Much easier than having to decide, no matter how old and sick they are. That's been my experience. Knowing that my Shih Tzu many years ago was 18 and a half and she passed away in her sleep. One of the cats I lost passed away in her sleep. I knew I was going to wake up and she was going to be dead. So I don't know how I knew that. I'm not like a super intuitive or anything. I just knew that, she, you know, her eyes were, I don't know, they were just telling me I knew. Sad, very sad. I grieved, I cried, all that stuff. Not as hard when you have to make that decision. That's at least for me. It's always challenging, but you know, and some dogs, they hit you more than others. I mean, you know, I wrote a book about one of mine, you know, Amber. I wrote her life story called Daddy's Little Girl on Amazon if you're interested. No. But you know, she was a therapy dog and a pit bull, so I thought her story should be shared.
Wow.
And that was not an intended book. I was writing for therapeutic reasons, which I suggest anyone do. Write a poem, jot down some thoughts, purge, right? Don't hold stuff in.
Yes.
And accidentally became a book. You know? What better way to celebrate her life of being a therapy dog and a pit bull, obviously, than to share with everyone all of the wonderful work she did throughout her life. Like, you know, it's, but yeah, it's an individual thing, I think. You know, what was hard for me now, hearing from some people, and not down here, because my vet, although they were kind of closed and they weren't allowing people in there, they were allowing families in for euthanasia throughout this COVID. I think some vets weren't even allowing that. I'm one of those guys. I got to be with them when they go. That's just me. I just feel like I need to be there with them. So I think for some people that might have been really hard if they had to like walk their dog to the front of a vet's office and say goodbye there. But that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah,
but,
that's terrible.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
yeah.
Oof.
You know, I have to say, you've had the experience of losing pets peacefully in their sleep. And I think, you know, that kind of brings up something for me. I think that changes a person's perspective, because the animals I've lost have been horrific, have been, you know, in a seizure, not coming out of a seizure, you know, just everything expelling from every orifice of the body. And,
Yeah.
you know, things like that. It's just so horrible that, as hard as it is to decide to let them go, for me, it's easier to do that and, you know, have a peaceful going out, blubbering my eyes out that way than watching some sort of horrific end, which I've done like 4 or 5 times. And I swore never again.
Yeah. Yep.
David?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with what everyone's saying on that. You know, it's very tough, and it's the same thing with people. You know, if people are kind of just go, you know, like my grandmother, she passed away in the middle of her sleep. You know, so that's the best way to go. So, you know, again, with dogs, that'd be the greatest way. But sometimes if it's horrific and they're really going through a lot of pain and discomfort, and obviously you have that emotional connection, and to have to be with them through that whole process and trying to take care of them, and then trying to decide when's the right time to maybe, you know, euthanasia, you know, is you know, a certain amount of pain is maybe tolerable, but they can't talk to you. All you can do is just witness them through their body language and through their eyes and so forth, and what they're trying to tell you. And sometimes they do try to tell you like, hey, the fight's up, I give up, you know, let me go, kind of thing. And I think hopefully a lot of us are intuitive, like you, Jeff. I think, you know, whether you realize it or not, you probably saw some things that knew that, hey, it's time and stuff like that. So but you know, as far as like with working with clients and stuff in the past before this pandemic, I'm sure all you've experienced it too, where I've gone in working with a dog, a puppy. Typically, a lot of times it's a puppy, and all of a sudden we start talking, and you can see the woman. Typically, a woman will start tearing up. I'm like, uh-oh, what's she about to say to me? And she starts like, oh, let me show you. And I've had so many people, so let me point the point on the wall. You see that's you know, Jojo or Casper or whatever. I just got over, you just lost her. Or it could be something I know it's been 10 years. I can't, it's something I can't get over. And he or she reminds me of the dog I have now, you know, and a lot of times they'll get the same breed. And oftentimes, whether it's 10 years, a lot of times it's just almost right away. You know, talk about what's right. Is it waiting a couple of years, or is it getting it right away? I don't think you can cherry pick and say, well, this person was wrong because they got the dog sooner versus later. I think, again, it's individual on that. But oftentimes it's right away because they want that connection, and they want to remember the dog that just passed. And oftentimes too, again, it's the same breed or some dog that looks very similar, reminds them of the dog they had. So
what do you think about that, David? What's your take on that? About them getting?
Yeah, I guess it's this is their way of dealing, you know, with the emotional loss, and this way, I guess they can keep the spirit alive, or keep that the other dog that had passed, you know, in the forefront of the person's mind, maybe. I guess where that might become problematic, and obviously we can't read their mind, is if getting to what someone was alluding to before, is if the personalities are different. You know, well, this dog, you know, I taught him to you know, sit right away, boom, boom, and this dog's taking forever. You know, Casper never did that, you know, or whatever it might be. Then they might have an internal battle in their head with that. You know, I don't know. So they have expectations that may not be realistic, but you know, I guess at the time when they're making these decisions, it's obviously a tough decision, and you do the best you can. That's all, you know, you can do. I had read an article actually a couple of years ago. I can't recall where, and it was from the vet's perspective, and how vet practices, how they should handle grief when someone calls in, say, you know, my dog just passed away, or how do we handle the grief, and what to say to the client and so forth. And I can't recall what it was, but it was basically alluding to, you know, it's nice to say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, and leave it at that. but they lead to saying some other things that are, very compassionate and heartwarming and things like that, just to make the client feel as comfortable as possible, even though there's not necessarily any right words to say it at that time.
Yeah.
So.
And what about those letters that the vets send after they euthanize your pet, or
Right, things like that, yeah.
to the university and the name of your pet and stuff like that? I think that's really kind of nice, because it comes a couple of weeks after the event, and then you get that. I think it leaves you with like a warm feeling for the vet, that there was some compassion there and empathy,
Mm-hmm.
Listen, what about this? Because this is an interesting thing. I lost whatever breed, and you get the same breed, like David says, right?
Yeah.
I've had clients that name the dogs the same name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm killing Jeff right now. Jeff, I swear to God, I'm lying, man. The same name, different dog, same breed, same name.
Yeah.
Now, you can't tell if somebody had to act, but I mean, I always feel that creeps me out just a little bit. Anybody listening out there, I don't mean this is totally impersonal, but woo, same name. It's like, like
Yeah,
have your,
I've run into that. I've run into that too.
right?
Yeah, I could never.
Yeah.
To each his own. I could never. My dogs they're so individual to me. Our relationships are so individual. It's kind of like George Foreman. Like he named all his kids George. But hey, if it works, it works. I guess.
Oh boy.
I guess as I get older, that might not be such a bad idea. The old memory.
Yeah, you remember.
Yeah.
All right, so let's end it on a little levity, folks. And
This is good.
that was good. And thank you for having a thoughtful discussion about this. I think that we had some interesting discussion and some interesting thoughts, and just something to ponder and something to continue thinking about. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank you all for watching. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.